counting on ya. Hey Jude.
Now, I know Barbara Bazell is here because I saw her greeting people, but she's making her way here to the sanctuary for the board welcome. Let's just reverse things and say hello to each other first, shall we? It is good to be back, good to be brought into this space by the band, and I want to invite you to turn to your neighbor and say hello, and if someone could go get Barbara at the same time, that'd be super. There she is. She's coming. Hello, hello. Good morning.
Sorry about that, but we have had so many fun new people come today, and people in need of name tags, that I got a little caught up. So I'll start over.
Good problem, good problem.
Good problem. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Arlington. My name is Barbara Bazell, and I'm a grateful member of the Board of Trustees. Today is Sunday, August 20th. Whether this is your first time joining us or your regular Sunday morning destination, we're glad you're here. UUCA is a church of radical love and acceptance, open to people of all backgrounds, races, genders, sexual orientations, disabilities and abilities, both seen and unseen. At UUCA, we encourage people to come for community, find inspiration, and live with purpose. This week, while I was clicking around the UUA website, I came across a request for elevator speeches, and this was one of the elevator speeches that resonated for me about what is Unitarian Universalism. And this is from John Johnstone from Oklahoma City. In Unitarian Universalist congregations, we gather in community to support our individual spiritual journeys. We trust that our openness to one another's experiences will enhance our understanding of our own links with the divine, with our history, and with one another. The truth of this resonated with me during a meeting led by Lila Vizard and I called New Beginnings this last week. In just a few meetings with this group, a sense of trust and care was evident that allowed for authentic and vulnerable sharing. I believe this embodies the core values of our faith. May you be met with this same spirit of welcome here. Thank you for coming, and welcome.
Barbara, thank you so much for that welcome, for those words of welcome. It is good to be back after a summer away. Rev CTC and I said to each other as we got up on the chancel, do you remember how to do this? And she said she thinks it's like riding a bicycle. So I can't actually ride a bicycle, a little known fact, but I think we can do this. So we are glad to be together. And I want to just share a word of appreciation to all of you who expressed care to me and to my family, and especially to my spouse, Peter, after his fall off a roof, our roof, 4 weeks ago tomorrow. Peter's actually here today. He's doing so much better. going back to work part-time. He's ramping up, and we have all learned so much about brains and how brains heal, kind of quietly and then rapidly, and we have certainly learned about support and community and care, and I'm so grateful for everybody who's just sent love, care, flexibility as our family has navigated that challenge. Thank you. Our opening words this morning, our call to worship, come to us from Lawrence McGinty. To this house, he writes. To this house, we come bringing our boldest dreams, seeking here the inspiration and strength to make them be. To this house, we come hoping to bury broken dreams, to be sustained through their pain, and to discover new ones amidst their tears. We come here lonely, isolated, needing to grow beyond plateaus of the commonplace. We seek here challenges and commitments, productive of greater wholeness and deeper meanings. Strange place, this house. Here we cry, sing, laugh, hurt, dance, touch, survive, celebrate, grow, search, doubt, hope, wonder, be, become. Yes, this morning, to this house we come.
Our world is filled with tragedy and pain on all sorts of levels. Our candle of compassion continues to be lit for those who are facing the tragedy of gun violence. We have not forgotten about those facing war all over the world. But I truly want to draw your attention to what's happening in Maui. And I want you to send your compassion, your care, your good vibes, your prayers, whatever it is you do, to the people of Maui. The level of destruction there is impossible to understand. The death count is currently at 114 officially. They are expecting it to zoom into the thousands. Hold them close. Remember the human beings who have lost their lives. Remember the stories that have been snuffed out. We send our love, our compassion, and our desire to lift them up and help them heal. We send our compassion to Maui. Let's light our chalice along with our sister congregations around the world. We gather together as a community of hope, of memory and hope. I do know how to do this. Let's see if it's like a bicycle.
You got it. You
Wait,
got it.
hold on.
Cheer, she's got it.
Let me see if it's really like a bicycle. We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. Please join me. We light this chalice as a symbol of the love within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world.
Before we sing our opening hymn this morning, I want to make sure you know that our sermon today is a little different than usual. We are doing a question sermon, and I did receive some questions in advance, but I am willing to take more. So, if when you came in you received an index card from the ushers, you are welcome to write a question on that index card. If you didn't receive a card and you would like one, raise your hand, and the ushers will bring it around to you you now, and I do think they've got some extra pens as well. I'm inviting folks, as you're able, to focus your questions on those 6 sources that we've been exploring all summer with Summer Minister Greg Bonin, or on Unitarian Universalist theology and philosophy and kind of wisdom in general. Though, you know, what the heck, you can just put whatever you put on the index card and we'll see if I answer it. So raise your hand if you need an index card. We'll collect them a little bit later in the service, so jot it down as we sing and as we have our wisdom lesson, and I look forward to the conversation. And now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 354. We laugh, we cry. We are singing verses 1 and 4. 1 and 4. Wisdom lesson this morning, I would like to draw on the wisdom of some other folks here, some folks who have been involved this summer in Peace Camp. Now, Peace Camp is a program of Little Friends for Peace, and it has been hosted here at UUCA from the very beginning, over 25 years ago. We have been one of the host locations for Peace Camp. And I'm going to invite Jason and Davon, where did I lose you? Where'd you go? Oh, awesome. And MJ to come on forward and join me up here. And if we've got young folks who would like to come up and join us up here, you are welcome to, or you're welcome to stay in your seat. You can bring your grown-up, however it goes. Come on up. We are going to come on up. You're good. Okay. All right. Oh. Look at that, and you get applause just for being you. Come on up. Okay, you want to sit down? Come on and sit right down on the, oh my goodness, Mertiel, you have a beautiful green cast, but I bet that hurt when you got it. Is that right? Yeah.
I broke my elbow.
You broke your elbow. Oh, Mertiel, we are sending you lots of love. Can you feel it from everybody out here? Right now they're thinking, we hope Mertiel's elbow gets better. Every single one of them, we hope it so much. Okay, let's sit down on the chancel. Perfect. And we're going to talk with some of our friends who did Peace Camp this summer. So let's see. Jason, could you tell me what Peace Camp is? Just start us off with that.
I look at Peace Camp not really as a camp, but more of almost a home, because when I was in it for, honestly, as long as I can remember, it was just a really nice place where you can do fun things and be with nice people who really care about you.
Awesome. And Davon, so Jason, I think, started out as a camper in Peace Camp, but this year was...
I was the drama coordinator, heading a new kind of drama department, helping kids play around with costumes and write plays.
Excellent, awesome. And then we have MJ over here, who is one of the founders of Peace Camp and has been part of it from the very beginning, and as you can see, is much beloved by the campers, and Davon is one of the campers. So can you tell me, what was one of your favorite things about Peace Camp this year? And I know if you want to look at your Davon prepared answers, because he's more prepared than I am, if you want to look at it, you can, or you can just tell me. What do you think? What was one of your favorite things?
Well, I like drama. And I also liked games with Mr. Jerry.
Games with Mr. Jerry.
Yeah.
Awesome. Shout out Mr. Jerry.
And I also like lunch.
Drama, games, and lunch sound amazing to me. Jason, can you tell me how you feel like Peace Camp brings elements of peace to, like, what does it mean? Are people being peaceful? Are they learning about peace in the world? How does that all happen at Peace Camp?
Both those things are definitely happening. We every morning we learn about different peacemakers. We learn about different ways to make peace. For example, each day of the week is a different kind of peace lesson. It's like Wednesday would be cooperation. So it's integrated in kind of a curriculum, but it's also shown through the fact that there is a community of people that they can identify with and they can have fun with. And that just brings out peace naturally.
Amazing. And Davon, did you, when you were at Peace Camp, can you remember doing anything that helped you feel more peaceful or calm inside you? Anything like that?
Like that, what Jason said, like in the morning we have like this peace meeting.
A peace meeting?
Yeah, I think that makes me feel like peaceful and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Nice. Is there anything that you practiced or a skill you learned while you were there, maybe in the peace meeting or at other times in camp, that you thought helped to build peace for you or for with your friends or in the world?
Probably games. Because it's like you interact with some people that you might not know, but you still like play with them and you sort of like make friends with them and stuff like that.
Oh. This sounds amazing to me. I'm so grateful. MJ, you know, we said that maybe you'd need to fill in some of the things, but I just don't think so. You have some amazing ambassadors here talking about Peace Camp and what it's meant for them. As part of the church's hosting of Peace Camp, families who are part of UUCA, and that's both David and Jason's families, help to volunteer, work in the kitchen, work with the kids, and then, of course, they bring in counselors with professional training as well. So, MJ, I know you have some murals to show us, and I wonder if some of our little ones here could help us unroll these murals. What do you think? You can? And we have another Peace Camper? Yep. Oh, phenomenal. Can you hold the end of this mural then for us? Do you want to tell me something you loved about Peace Camp?
I really like games and lunch. That's mostly.
Games and lunch. Really high marks for games and lunch. High five. You want to do a high five? High five. High five for games and lunch. And we're going to hold out these peace murals that were made at Peace Camp. They are so beautiful with houses and fruit and flowers. Amazing. Do you want to help MJ, Miss MJ, hold that mural for us? I see buildings and a big rainbow. I want to invite you to join me in just celebrating the peaceful work, the peace building, and the peacemaking that Peace Camp and these kiddos and many, many other kiddos. How many kids did you have this summer? We had 65 kids each week created this summer. Thank you so much to all of you. Davon, amazing job. Thank you. Jason, thank you so much. We are going to sing our little ones to their classes, and as we do that, the ushers are going to come around and collect those questions. So if you have a question ready, hold it up high so the ushers can get it. We're going to roll this up and sing our kids out to their classes. Thank you, band. So ushers, I see some cards in the air. If y'all can go and pick those up and then like discreetly bring them to me so I can look at them for approximately 5 minutes before answering them. Thank you. Yes. All right. We can pray now. We're going to pray right now. Well, we're going to pray whenever you tell us to pray, Rev CTC. I'm not going to get to them all. No, it'll be too many. Okay.
Would you all take out your hymnals and turn to the reading in the back, number 468. And as you're doing that, I want you to be paying attention to your breathing and how you're inhabiting this space this morning. So let's take a few breaths in and let them out. And again, in, and let that breath out. And center yourself right here in this place with these people. We don't quite often do responsive readings in our services, but this felt like a time when we need to talk about needing each other. So let's do this together. I will read the regular text, and you will respond with the italics. We need one another. When we mourn and would be comforted, we need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again.
We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose. We cannot do it alone.
We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs.
We need one another.
Hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we come to die, and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. And all together, please. All our lives we are in need of others, are in need of us. I appreciate you doing that. I know it's different than our normal custom. As we move forward into the week, those of you who pray, please pray for the folks in Maui. And please pray for those who are at war all over the world. And also, let's remember as we come back to church, come back to this place where we get to be our best selves, to pray, to honor, to love, and to hold each other. To hold each other. Amen.
Fuente de amor, ven hacia mí y al corazón, cántale tu compasión sobre al volar, sube en la mar hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. So in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Ours is a community that gives. You've heard me say this many times. We give of our time, we give of our talent, we give of our treasure. At UUCA, every month, we give away a huge portion of the plate. The Share the Plate program in August will be going to Path Forward's bagged meal program. Our volunteers here at UUCA gather monthly to prepare bagged meals for people experiencing homelessness. Path Forward, which was formerly called ASPAN, uses those meals to help transform lives. They also deliver housing solutions and pathways toward stability. In recent years, volunteer interest in the program right here at UUCA has grown significantly. We had to add an extra session of making bagged meals because so many people wanted to help. It's good. Basically, we doubled the number of meals that we are able to donate back to the community. I could tell you more. It would not be nearly as interesting or as efficient as someone else can use this time for. This morning we have Scott Miller, Path Forward's Community Engagement Manager, here to tell you some more about the group and about the work they do. First, let me shine a tiny light on Scott. Scott has been active in both the nonprofit and the for-profit communities in the DC metro area for 30 years. He has a passion for the Arlington business safety net and for nonprofit communities. Devoted to the inherent dignity of all individuals and to a live, work, play Arlington mindset, Scott has been with Path Forward for 9 years and has called the Penrose Park neighborhood of Arlington his home for 20 plus years. Scott, please come forward.
Thank you, Reverend CTC. Hello, UUCA. So, my name is Scott Miller. I am indeed the Community Engagement Manager with Path Forward. I celebrated my 9th anniversary last week, actually, at the organization. Oh, how's that? Even better? Even better? So, at Path Forward, formerly ASPAN, same great organization, just new great name. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. 30 years in the community helping people experiencing homelessness. For 29 of those years, many people fondly remembered us as ASPAN. Our 30-year history dates back to roots in this church. It's my understanding we had our first office, our first official office in the basement of this church 29 years ago. And the organization really started with the outreach that this church continues to do to this day, which is the bagged meal program. We call it the Homeless Bag Meal Program. It's how the organization actually started 30 years ago, and it was with two neighbors who just saw a need in the community. People were hungry, and they simply made these bagged meals in their basement. They put them in their station wagons, and they drove them all around Arlington. And they hit Courthouse and Crystal City and Ballston. And they just saw people were hungry and on the street. And they soon realized very quickly that they weren't just hungry, but they were homeless. And that's how our organization started 30 plus years ago. We since migrated from this church about 27 years ago and rented space from AFAC for many, many years. Our offices were actually above where AFAC is now, where they've moved their staff offices up to. But we did really great work there and had a day program in Shirlington for 20 plus years. But we are now in the Homeless Services Center in Courthouse. That's a 24/7 resource center. It's open year-round now, shelter beds year-round. It's not just during winter months or not just during hypothermia season, but that really is the hub of activities for people experiencing homelessness in the community, and it's really allows us to have all of our programs and services all under one roof. That is where the bagged meals will end up in the evenings to be distributed in the mornings for people going to work, or the outreach team that hits those areas in the community where if clients won't come to us, we go to them. We go to them with licensed clinical social workers. We visit them on the streets with registered nurses and a medical team and partners we have with a nursing program with Marymount University and Georgetown University Public Health students. So we really have a robust, really continuum of care here in Arlington. And I think that's why it works so well for us as a community, because we are all working together, whether it's a business, whether it's a faith-based group, a church, schools. The community as a whole really comes together, and we're partnering with our other nonprofit partners and with AFAC and with Doorways and with Thrive. And we're making sure that person is getting those wraparound services that they need, because we provide much more than just shelter and so much more than just the bagged meal program. It's eviction prevention and rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. We're on a fiscal year that just ended June 30th of this past year, so I have some numbers to share with you, and I want to share them with you just because I find them super impactful and really impressive. And it's because of the work we do and the partners and the volunteers we have with the church, UCA in particular, that allows us to accomplish these things. And I'm just going to pick out like 3 or 4 of the highlights. We have 524 people now in scattered site apartments throughout Arlington in a permanent supportive housing environment, meaning those are 524 people who used to be on the streets here in Arlington. In supportive housing, 95% of our clients are still housed after 5 years. We actually had touch points with 438 individuals in shelter last year. We diverted 62 people from being evicted and got them rapidly rehoused with our eviction prevention program. And 1,008 in-person nursing visits, 198 visits with our mobile medical program. That's the program where if you won't come to us for support and help and nursing services, we will go to you. And 43,883 meals. We served 43,000 meals last year. About half of those were the bagged meal program. So thank you to UCA, thank you to the community, and thank you for the support you provide to us. Together, we're really having an impact in people's lives, and together, we can end homelessness in Arlington. Thank you.
Will the ushers please come forward and collect an offering at this time? And will the band play?
Sure.
I wanna live, I wanna give. I've been a miner for a heart of gold. It's these expressions I never give that keep me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. They keep me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. I've been to Hollywood, I've been to Redwood, I've crossed the ocean for a heart of gold. I've been in my mind, it's such a fine line that keeps me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. It keeps me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. Searching for a heart of gold. You keep me searching and I'm growing old. You keep me searching for a heart of gold. I've been a miner for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old.
As I said before, this is a community that gives. Thank you for digging deep and supporting Path Forward as they help support the homeless in Arlington. I also want to remind you all there's a table in Fellowship Hall this morning so you can learn all about Path Forward. And someone told me there's swag. Yes. So please stop by the table and visit with Scott and learn more about them before you leave today. We bless and receive these gifts, opening our hearts to true generosity. Please join me. Let us be grateful when we give, be it time, talent, or treasure. Let us be grateful for our needs and the experience of vulnerability. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts to nurture this congregation. Fashion fix? Well, thank you. It's like a bicycle. It all comes back. So I came out of my office this morning ready for church, 2 minutes left till 10:15, and realized I had no stole on. So I very quickly in the lobby made a U-turn and went back to my office, and I got the stole, but I forgot my pins, that I usually wear. One of the reasons I wear those pins is because it holds the stole in place. So when it starts going like this, you have to let me know. So before we get to the Q&A, where Amanda's going to tell you about all the things and answer all the questions, I have this reading that she selected. It's gorgeous. It was written by Billy Collins. It's called Questions About Angels. Of all the questions you might want to ask about angels, the only one you ever hear is, how many can dance on the head of a pin? No curiosity about how they pass the eternal time besides circling the throne, chanting in Latin, or delivering a crust of bread to a hermit on earth, or guiding a boy and girl across a rickety wooden bridge. Do they fly through God's body and come out singing? Do they swing like children from the hinges of the spirit world, saying their names backwards and forwards? Do they sit alone in little gardens, changing colors? What about their sleeping habits? The fabric of their robes? Their diet of unfiltered divine light? What goes on inside their luminous heads? Is there a wall where these tall presences can look over and see hell? If an angel fell off a cloud, would he leave a hole in a river? And would the hole float along endlessly filled with the silent letters of every angelic word? If an angel delivered the mail, would they arrive in a blinding rush of wings, or would they just assume the appearance of the regular mailman and whistle up the driveway reading someone's postcard? No. The medieval theologians control the court. The only question you ever hear is about the little dance floor on the head of that pin, where halos are meant to converge and drift invisibly. It's designed to make us think in millions, billions, to make us run out of numbers and collapse into infinity. But perhaps the answer is simply one. One female angel dancing alone in her stocking feet, a small jazz combo working in the background. She sways like a branch in the wind, her beautiful eyes closed, and the tall, thin bass player leans over to glance at his watch because she's been dancing forever. And now it's very late, even for musicians. She sways like a branch in the wind. That's by Billy Collins.
Rev CTC, thank you so much for that. It is one of my favorite theological poems. Well, you all gave me some great questions, both ahead of time, that was only 2 people, and here, just right now. And I will not get to all of them, I'll tell you that right now, but I want to tell you that I do take all the questions and read them, and you may see them pop up in sermons throughout the year, because it's a way for me to know what it is that you are thinking about. I also checked on Facebook to see what questions might pop up there, and I had, what instrument is Topher playing? It's a bass stick, or a stick bass, or a bass stick, or it's a stick. Literally, that's what it's called? It's a stick. He's playing a stick. But that gives me a great opportunity to introduce the band. We have Topher on the stick. We have Matt on vocals and guitar, and Peter on the drums. Another favorite question I received is, where is my llama? That was all caps, and it is 2 L's, so it's not like the Dalai Lama, which I could see being a theological question. Maybe you have a theological experience with llamas, the animals as well. I am personally partial to alpacas, so just take that away with you. And then, don't you think that was maybe Greg? I feel like, was it you, Greg? It was. We're gonna miss Greg. Where's my llama? I don't know. Good luck. Okay, and then you all actually asked questions about the 6 sources, which was just really warmed my heart, because when do Unitarian Universalists do what they're told to do? Almost never. Amazing, amazing. So I'm going to try to combine some of these questions and give an answer that hopefully touches on a number of them. And I want to just start by saying, we have looked at the 6 sources all this summer. Greg has led a 6-week series, each one looking at a different source. If you don't know what I'm talking about, pull out your gray hymnal, and at the very beginning of the hymnal, kind of in a page or two, you will find a list of the principles and purposes of the Unitarian Universalist Association. These principles and purposes were first adapted in a different form in 1961, had a lot more language about men then, and then revised significantly in the mid-'80s. And then actually the final source, does everybody find it? What page are we at? Alex, do you have the page there? What's the page? Did you find it yet? Page 3. And then the 6th source was actually added in 1995. That's the one about earth-centered tradition. So the sources we're talking about are the 6 sources of our Unitarian Universalist faith. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how that's changing now, and because some of the questions are about that. But those are the 6 sources that we're looking at. These historical articulations in the 60s and the 80s and then revised in the 90s of where we draw inspiration as Unitarian Universalists, as individual Unitarian Universalists, and as a Unitarian Universalist congregation and as a community and a movement. So we've been looking at these all summer, and one of the questions was actually, this was an excellent program, could it be adapted as a regular thing for newcomers? So that's a great idea, thank you for that. And then someone has a question about the Unitarian Universalist principles changing, which that's right. They are under review, still not finalized, and will the sources be changed? So I want to talk about that a little and then talk a little bit about the sources, because I have several questions about which sources are pointed out. So that's correct that these principles and purposes are part of the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, right? They're not this church's bylaws, they're not in ours, they're in the denomination's bylaws, like literally in the governing documents. What is Unitarian Universalist Association? What's it supposed to do? What's the phone number? I don't know what else is in the bylaws. And then what is it for, right? The principles and purposes, and includes the 7 principles and these 6 sources. And that language is up for review every 10 years or so, I think it is. And it's up for review by the General Assembly, by all these gathered Unitarian Universalists, right, that gather together in assembly and vote on it and study it and et cetera. So there's been a years-long study process bringing us now to some revised new language that incorporates some of the old language and has some different language. And that revised language, after several amendments, many amendments actually, was then approved at the last General Assembly just this past June, and now we're going to study it. We, being Unitarian Universalists everywhere, are going to study it for the next year, and then we're going to vote next June on whether we want to adopt it as our new revised language, right? So that page 3 in the hymnal would then have some new language because it reflects the new language that would be in the bylaws. Is everybody kind of following that? If you aren't and you don't care, that's fine. It doesn't actually really change, right? It's not like we stand up here and recite them every Sunday, but it helps us to understand on a national level who we are and what is at our core, what is at our center. And in fact, the new revised language holds six values like justice and compassion, and then holds at its center love, right? And that's really resonated for a lot of people. So that's the process that's happening right now, nationally, around that. And that's part of the reason that Greg decided to look at those 6 sources over the summer, because they are going to shift, and it seemed like an opportunity for us as a congregation to kind of root ourselves in some of those historical sources. Where have we said we've drawn inspiration, so that as we look at the new language together this coming year, we can be rooted in that history while also looking forward. Where do we draw inspiration now? What would we highlight now to say this is where my faith comes from, or my justice work comes from, or my sense of being as a Unitarian Universalist comes from? So it's a little bit on the history. Oh gosh, I just dropped these. They're all out of order now. That's okay. A little bit on the history of the sources. And then I had some great questions from people about those historic sources. So I'm going to name them all now, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Here was one that came this past week. I'm wondering why the 6 sources specifically list Christian and Jewish scriptures. I would like to see writings by all religious sources. And then a related question today, how does Buddhism fit into Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington? And I'm going to expand that and say into Unitarian Universalism in general. And then a question today, is Unitarian Universalism still considered Christian? So, okay, we're going to take all of those together and talk a little bit about the history of Unitarian Universalism, from like 1819 to 1985 when these sources were created, except stopping in 1961, and today. Ready? Okay, so as many of you have heard me share before, right? Unitarian Universalism came out of these 2 Christian traditions in the 19th century, Unitarianism and Universalism, both of them offering a heresy about Christianity. Unitarianism said both that they believed in the unity of God instead of the Trinity, and that they rejected the concept of original sin, said people were born with the ability for good or for evil, and that our job is to grow in likeness to God, to grow in goodness. And then Universalism, which rejected the concept of hell and said ultimately all of us will be saved. A loving God is going to save all of us one way or the other at the end of things, right? So those are these 2 heresies still very much in the Christian tradition in the 19th century and all the way through the 19th century and the end of the 19th century. Ooh, Transcendentalism came, right? Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau and Margaret Fuller. Transcendentalism came, this kind of offshoot of Unitarianism. So they're having more and more creative ideas, but still understanding themselves as Christian. Here we go at the turn of the century into the 20th century, 1900s, and we start to see humanism coming in and kind of taking Unitarianism especially by storm, right? And things are shifting now. And as we go into the 20th century, and Christian churches, particularly Protestant Christian churches in the United States, start organizing together. They create the National Council of Churches, right? All of these mainline Christian churches working together. We have reached a point in the evolution of Unitarian Universalism where the other Christian churches say, I'm not really sure you're us anymore, right? And so that's kind of one of the turning points where we begin to see Unitarianism and Universalism moving from being heresies within, like just versions of Christianity, to sometimes I say protesting so much they protested themselves out of Protestantism, right? They kept going with their evolution. We see that in the early 20th century. Now then we get to 1961 and 62 when we have the merger of these 2 movements, Unitarianism and Universalism, and the first articulation of these 6, though it was then 5 and different language, sources. At that point, we talk about the source of Judeo-Christian tradition. So even though the tradition wasn't really part of Christianity anymore, it was still very firmly rooting itself in what they understood then as this continuation of the Judeo-Christian tradition, right? Like Judaism led to Christianity, led to Unitarian Universalism. Okay, this is 1961. And actually not a lot of talk about any other world religions at that point. Fast forward to 1985, when we get very similar language to the sources that we have now. By 1985, a couple of things had happened within Unitarian Universalism and within religious scholarship in the United States. First of all, we were beginning to move away from language, we in sort of progressive religious circles, move away from language about the Judeo-Christian tradition as though it's one big tradition. You can imagine why, right? Sometimes we call that supersessionism. If we think that Judaism was really just the precursor to Christianity, Those of us who were raised Jewish, consider ourselves Jewish, might feel like that's not quite correct, right? And so we start to separate those and talk about the Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition. And you see that show up in our sources, right? We no longer have Judeo-Christian, but Jewish and Christian teachings. And you can see in those 1985 sources the beginnings of articulation that we might get wisdom from other religious traditions too, outside of the core Western tradition of Judaism and really, right, primarily Christianity. And you see that in the source about wisdom from world religions. But it's all lumped together, right? We have like the important ones, Judaism and Christianity, and then we have like all the other world religions, which you might be aware includes most of the world, actually, and many different traditions and versions of those traditions and millennia of religious thought. But in 1985, we just had that lumped into other world religions. And then we had 1995 with the addition of earth-centered, like, what does it say? Rhythms of the earth and earth-centered traditions, I think, something like that. Just, yeah, like, she's just like, whatever, I don't know, some nodding at me. Something like that, that's right. Because of the rise of neo-pagan and earth-centered traditions within Unitarian Universalism. So you can see along this timeline, right, the growth of Unitarian Universalism to understand itself from a Christian tradition originally to what now we might experience as a pluralistic religious movement, drawing wisdom actually from many different religious traditions and wisdom sources and philosophies. So, as we now look at some revised language, moving into this study of the year ahead, and we'll have lots of opportunities for you to engage with that here at this church, and then the decision point at the end of this year when we gather with Unitarian Universalists around the country to make that decision about changing our language, you're going to see language that instead of naming particular traditions the way our sources do now, instead invite us to a broader understanding of the wisdom that we may have grown up with in our religious traditions, that we receive from religious traditions that weren't our own, but that we learn from. You're going to see language that really embraces the pluralistic religious understanding that Unitarian Universalism holds now, right? So some of what those questions asked for, right, I'd like to see something that isn't just Jewish and Christian scriptures. You're going to see that in the new language that's coming before us, ready for our study now. Okay, how did I do? How was 2 of them? Okay, these are done. What time is it? Oh, we're supposed to be done. Oh gosh, no, wait, hang on. Let me just do a couple really quickly. Okay, I'm going to do a whole sermon on this later. How can we best respond when people say, UUs are great people, but it isn't church? Don't you think we should do a sermon on that? We're doing a sermon on that. So we're just going to hold that. It looks like church to me. I don't know. So we're going to talk. But then it's complicated too, right? Because actually for some of our folks coming from non-Christian traditions, it may look like congregational life. Now, there's a lot there. It's going to be great. Maybe we'll do a partner sermon for that. Ooh, that's good, right? Okay. Let's see. I'm just telling you the questions. There are a lot of elements of world religions that reinforce stereotypes and exclusion. That's true. I often think of religion as being a tool, right? It's a tool that humans have created to help them make meaning in the world, to build community and connection, to understand their place in the world. And like any tool, it can be used in ways that are beautiful and justice building, and it can be used in ways that are exclusionary, that set up, tribal limitations and limits, right? And that speak to the worst of ourselves, just as it can speak to the best of ourselves. So the question here is, how do we choose which elements of wisdom to embrace? And I think I would put to the test, right? Like, is this teaching from this particular world religion, is this one that invites me to open my heart more and more and more to more people and more of myself and more of, like the true connected nature of the world? Or is it one that feels like it puts up walls or shuts people out from me? And I think you can find probably some of both of those in almost every world religion, right? It's a tool of people, and we can choose how we engage with it. What are children taught in Sunday school? Maybe we'll do a sermon on that too. And then everything, yes, and kindness. And then I do want to end with this one because I got it ahead of time. Theology is sometimes represented by a fish. Christianity has the story about Jesus feeding the multitudes with fish. And then, of course, the fish was an early Christian symbol, particularly when Christianity was not safe to practice. People would just draw the fish. It's because I and Jesus, anyway, same letter, it's Greek. And Vishnu turns into a fish to feed man during the deluge. This person's giving me like a religious theology lesson here. Have you ever considered a Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sermon centered around the Babel fish, where God disappears in a poof of logic? An idea since the UUs reject the Trinity and have read Douglas Adams. So actually, I have not read Douglas Adams. I did really briefly do some Googling about the Babel fish, which is a tiny fish with like a suction that you put in this book, not in real life, that you put into your ear, and it's a universal translator so you can understand every language in the world, which I thought had very interesting implications within Unitarian Universalism. When I often say put on your translator, we're using like a scripture lesson that might not be your tradition, put your translator on. I think like Star Trek, but I guess you could put a fish in your ear. Sadly, the Babel fish actually causes a lot of war, apparently, in this book, because now they can communicate, and they needed peace camp, I guess. If you have a Babel fish, also have peace camp, is the lesson we're taking away. Anyway, there's a whole fascinating argument about the existence or non-existence of God based on the evidence of this fish, and God disappears in a poof. I did pull the quote from the novel. So if I were to write a sermon about this, I would probably read the novel first, and then it would center around faith and proof. And Unitarian Universalists' sort of usual disinterest in proof, but also nervousness around faith and what it means for us then to have faith. What do we know? What do we hold proof of? Where do we look for proof in our relationships, in our stories, and how do we hold faith and what's it in? Okay, but I haven't read the book, so I can't do that sermon. That's it for today. Thank you for your amazing questions, and you're definitely going to see the one about being a church come up some point this year. And I think now we are, Greg, come on up. Where's your llama? Are we doing a hymn first before we say after? Oh, good. Greg, come up. Come up. We don't have a llama for you. I'm really sorry. So Greg, as you know, has been our intern minister for 2 years here, and then has been our summer minister for the last 6 weeks. And this is actually now, I feel like we said goodbye to you in May. We turned you from an intern minister into a summer minister, and then you had the end of your series last week. But we're saying goodbye again, everybody. It's just happening again. In fact, as Greg prepares to really leave the congregation, he's going to be then holding distance from the congregation, which is one of the final lessons of a teaching internship, that the minister serves the needs of the congregation and not vice versa, right? And so even as we serve and love deeply and care hugely about our congregations, they are not really ours, right? They don't belong to us. And so when our service to them is done, we then take space. We take a break so that the ministry of the congregation can flourish without us and without the confusion of us bopping back in, right? And so that we can continue our journey. And so Greg is finishing his time here today, and we'll take that space. We will keep you updated on what's going on with Greg, we promise. I know he's gotten lots of questions about that, so we'll let you know. But for now, I wanted to invite us to send a whole lot of love over to Greg as he continues on his journey. And I invite you afterward to find him and let him know a way that his ministry here was important to you, because it surely was important to all of us. Thank you so much, Greg. Now, if we were to have a seventh source in Unitarian Universalism, it might be folk music. And so I want to invite you to rise in body or in spirit and sing not a hymn from your hymnal, but Blowing in the Wind. Sing along if you know the words, hum and look like you know what you're doing. If you don't, just sway if you feel like it. Take it away, band.
Refrain first. Yeah, we go ready? 2, 3, 4.
How many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? And how many seas must a white dove sail before she can sleep in the sand? And how many times must the cannonballs fly before they are forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. And how many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? And how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. And how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? And how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? And how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. One more chorus. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Please join me in the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light and warmth it represents. These we carry with us, bringing our sparks of love to the world.
May we find questions here, and may we find answers, and may we always be open to the answer that simply leads to another question. May it be so. Amen.
Someone told me long ago, there's a calm before the storm, and I know it's been coming for some time. When it's over, so they say, it'll rain a sunny day, and I know the shining down like water yesterday, days before. Sun is cold and rain is hard, and I know it's been that way for all that time. Till forever on it goes, through the circle fast and slow, and I know and it can't stop, I wonder. And I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? And I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain coming down on a sunny day? One more time, everybody. And I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? And I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain coming down on a sunny day? All right. Thank you. Mr. P, I've got to ask you a question that's burning in my mind. The song selection is made it a little easier this one. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Oh, because of vibration. Oh, you hit it and then oops. Oh, okay. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I get a couple more weeks and then that's it. Downstairs.